Okay, today we're going to take a look at the Lightning ASIC LA90M, a 90 megahertz scrypt hashing machine. This is the box that it came in. Not very exciting. It was delivered by DHL. I had no trouble with delivery. You can see the box did get a little bit beat up. DHL never lets me down and always makes sure that they put some good dents in the boxes. But it was packed very securely. You can see that Lightning ASIC uses these custom foam thingies that hold the miner in pretty well. I've never had a problem with anything that they have delivered. So that's the box. Let's get to the miner. So here we have the miner. As you can see, I've already set it up. I'm going to be putting a firmware upgrade in and doing some more extensive testing for the review here. And so we'll be opening up the box and looking inside for the first time. I haven't done that yet. I was a little impatient, just wanted to set it up and make sure it was running. So that was not part, the unboxing was not part of the review, but not very exciting in any event. You can see it has a very nice custom, looks like an aluminum case. And you can probably hear that it is pretty noisy. I would say I have a Sponduli SP10 that is noisier. But other than Sponduli, this is probably the noisiest box that I have. You can see there's 320 millimeter fans. They're going full blast right there. On the front, there is a Ethernet cable. And one of the nice things that Lightning ASIC does is they set up the miner with a static IP address, and they put a sticker on there so you know what the static IP is. We'll see when I do the firmware upgrade. I have a suspicion that that will have to change, but we'll see. And I may have to do some searching to find it. Anyway, that's about it. We're going to take the cover off and do the firmware upgrade next. I guess let me show you the front here, or the back. You know, it looks like this was meant to be rack mounted, but it's too wide for a rack. So that would be my first biggest complaint, is that it can't really be rack mounted. But you can kind of see inside when we're going to open up the cover. Hashing boards, power supply. It's a very nice looking unit, nice, pretty unit. One thing I do want to say, because I've had some of my Bitcoin miners from China have been delivered and were badly damaged. Actually, we'll wait till we open up the box to look at this, but you can see the Lightning ASIC does a really good job of securing the heat sinks to the bottom of the case. I can't see it from in there. We'll have to wait till we take the thing apart. They do a really good job of securing the heat sinks so they don't get thrashed around too much. You can actually see in the corner here, I have an old Avalon clone. Similar size, but it's not being plugged in right now because when it arrived it was completely scrambled, and sending it back would have cost me $800, so that was kind of pointless. So that's going to be my project. I'm probably going to try to put in some type of scrypt hashing in there, but that's a nice rack mount case. But in the meantime, I have this thing to play with, so let's get the new firmware in there and open up the box, and we'll continue this. Okay, I have the cover off. It was just the top screws that needed to be removed. Inside you can see the 6 hashing boards. Get a better look at them here. There are heat sinks on the back, the large heat sink there. And then there's also, looks like heat sinks on the front of the chips themselves. Looks pretty solidly put together. I mentioned this earlier, and if you flip the machine over, you can see why Lightning ASIC does not have any problem with shipping. Each of these heat sinks is secured with 6 screws to the bottom, and that holds them pretty well. And you'll see that also, unlike some of the other imports that I've gotten from China, the heat sinks are secured in a way that looks like a pretty regular pattern. They weren't just randomly screwed in there. It looks like the holes must have been drilled according to some kind of a pattern, because they're exactly the same from heat sink to heat sink. So going back inside here, oops. So you can see the 6 hashing boards laid out pretty nicely. The power supply is a Game Zone Gold. It's an 80 Gold Plus power supply, 1100 watt. I'm not familiar with that brand, but it certainly serves its purpose. You can also see right back in there the Raspberry Pi board, which is controlling the whole thing. That's what I'm going to have to access to change the firmware. So I'm going to pull some of these wires out and see if we can get the firmware, get the card out of there and replace it with the new card. Okay, so I noticed here that the RPi is right there in the corner, and you can actually access the SD card slot from the front, something I actually did not even notice, but it's right there in front of me where the IP network address is. So I pulled out the old SD card right here, which is it's an 8 gigabyte SanDisk card, and I popped in mine. So we'll put the cover back on and we're going to fire it up and see what happens. All right, so I loaded version 103 that was provided by Lightning ASIC on the Bitcoin Talk forum. Is the latest firmware that Lightning ASIC has released. Here's their dashboard, which I did have to run a scanner. The IP address did change. The IP address, as you can see, that is programmed into the version of the firmware that I got is 192.168.1.103. I had to run a scanner to find that. It wasn't labeled anywhere. But now that I've had it, I can change my IP address and netmask and gateway to my local settings. So I'm going to do that right now. And then I'm going to restart the miner hooked up to my network. Right now it's not hooked up because I have a different network address. So I only have to hook it up locally and then reprogram it here. I wish that they would provide a DHCP default so that it would be workable immediately on my network, but that they seem to prefer to do the static IP, so we have to deal with that. So let me go ahead and change the IP address to my network, and then we'll reboot it and we'll see what, if anything, has changed. Okay, so I've filled in my pool parameters, as you can see here. And the board speed settings have not changed. I was hoping they would increase, they would add the increased board speed that the latest InnoSilicon firmware adds a third speed, but that is not here yet. Device difficulty still only goes to 128. Power on auto start is there. So once you've set your pool settings, you want to click this button right here to confirm. And then you'll see the red stop will turn to green, or if it doesn't, I'm going to do it again. Yeah, there we go. So you know it's working because we have a green on the real-time status monitor. Now it does take a minute for it to start working, so you have to hit refresh a few times on the hash meter before you see anything. There we go. So that's obviously early data not valid, but let's go to the real-time status monitor and see if we see anything new. So far looks the same. I don't see any differences yet. There are my pools. So basically it looks pretty much the same as the earlier version that it came with. There's the stats page. Everything looks pretty much the same. So hopefully, except CG Miner is updated to 3.9. I think it was 3.7 in the previous version that came with the miner. So that is the LA90M. I will be keeping track of stats and various pools. I'm trying to figure out what the optimal pool is for this, and in the meantime I'm going to be enjoying earning some Litecoins and altcoins. Hope everybody gets a chance to try one of these things. They're fantastic machines. Thanks everyone.